My fiancée tried to fund her ex's failing business with our wedding savings, then blamed me when I refused. I, 32, male, am reeling from a situation that unfolded over the past few weeks, and I honestly don't know if I'm overreacting or if my fiancée, 30, female, Sarah, has completely lost her mind. We've been together for 5 years, engaged for 1, and was set to get married in 6 months. We had a joint savings account specifically for the wedding and our initial down payment on a house. We'd managed to save a respectable amount, enough for a decent wedding and a good start on a mortgage, about $80,000 in total. This money was painstakingly built up, with both of us contributing equally from our salaries. I'm an engineer, and she's a marketing manager, both with stable, well-paying jobs. We'd always been on the same page about our financial goals and future, or so I thought. The first crack appeared about a month ago. Sarah started acting distant, glued to her phone, and frequently stepping out of the room for hushed conversations. When I asked if everything was all right, she'd brush it off, saying it was just work stress or calls with her mother. I tried to be understanding, giving her space, but the feeling of unease grew. Her phone was always face down, and she'd flinch if I got too close when she was texting. It wasn't like her. We usually shared everything, including our phones if needed. One evening, I walked into the living room to find her on a video call. She quickly snapped her laptop shut, a panicked look on her face. I asked who she was talking to, and she mumbled something about a college friend. Her evasiveness raised a red flag, but I didn't push it, hoping she'd open up eventually. A few days later, I came home from work to find her unusually quiet. She sat me down, looking incredibly serious. My stomach dropped. I braced myself for bad news, thinking perhaps she'd lost her job or a family member was ill. What she said next, however, was far more perplexing and, frankly, infuriating. "Michael," she began, her voice soft but strained, "I need to talk to you about something important. It's about David." David is her ex-boyfriend from college. They dated for about 2 years before she broke up with him, citing his lack of ambition and financial instability. I'd met him once or twice at mutual friend gatherings years ago. He seemed harmless enough, if a bit of a perpetual dreamer. I knew he'd tried various entrepreneurial ventures over the years, none of which had really taken off. "What about David?" I asked, a knot forming in my stomach. "He's in a lot of trouble," she said, wringing her hands. His latest business venture, a bespoke artisanal coffee roasting company, is on the brink of collapse. He's invested everything, mortgaged his small apartment, and now he's facing bankruptcy. He needs a substantial amount of money, and he needs it fast. I just stared at her, waiting for the punchline, for the part where she'd say she felt bad for him but there was nothing we could do. But that wasn't what came next. "I told him we could help," she continued, her gaze fixed on the floor. "I told him we could lend him the money to save his business." My jaw must have dropped. "Lend him what money, Sarah? What are you talking about?" "Our wedding savings," she blurted out, finally looking at me, her eyes pleading. "He needs about $50,000. It would be a loan, of course. He'd pay us back with interest once the business takes off. He's got a solid business plan, really, it just needs a little push." I was speechless. $50,000. Our wedding savings. The money we'd scrimped and saved, sacrificed nights out and vacations for, was now being proposed as a bailout for her ex-boyfriend's failing coffee business. The audacity of it took my breath away. "Sarah, are you serious?" I managed to stammer out. $50,000? From our savings? For David's coffee business. It's not just coffee, Michael, it's a passion project. And yes, from our savings. It's a loan, not a gift. He'll pay us back. He promised. He's just in a really tight spot, and he has no one else to turn to. No one else to turn to. I echoed, my voice rising. What about his family? What about a bank loan? What about literally anyone else in the world who isn't his ex-girlfriend who is currently engaged to another man and planning a wedding with shared funds? He's tried all that, she said, her voice becoming defensive. His family can't help. Banks won't touch him because his credit is shot. He's desperate, Michael. He's truly a good person, just unlucky. And I couldn't just stand by and watch him lose everything. And what about us, Sarah? I asked, trying to keep my voice even, though I felt a tremor of anger building inside me. What about our wedding? Our house down payment? That $50,000 represents a significant portion of our future, our shared future. We can just postpone the wedding for a few months, she suggested, as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world. Or we can scale it back, have a smaller, more intimate ceremony. We don't need a big expensive wedding, do we? And the house can wait a little longer. This is an emergency, Michael. A real emergency. I felt a cold dread settle in my chest. An emergency for him, Sarah, not for us. This is not our problem to solve. And you just casually offered to give away $50,000 of our money we saved together, without even discussing it with me first. I was going to tell you, she snapped, her face flushing. I just wanted to make sure I had a solution before I brought you bad news. I knew you'd be resistant, but I thought you'd come around once you understood the gravity of the situation. David is really suffering. And my suffering doesn't count. I retorted, my anger finally bubbling over. The suffering of having our carefully planned future thrown into chaos because you want to play a white knight for your ex-boyfriend? What kind of sense does that make? It's not about playing a white knight, she cried, tears starting to well up in her eyes. It's about helping a friend in need. Someone I care about deeply, who is a good person and just made some bad choices. Don't you have any compassion, Michael? Compassion. I have compassion, Sarah, but I also have common sense and a commitment to our shared future. This is not a reasonable request. Lending $50,000 to a financially irresponsible ex-boyfriend with a failing business is not helping a friend. It's throwing money down a black hole, and it's jeopardizing everything we've worked for. The argument escalated quickly. She accused me of being selfish, heartless, and uncaring. I accused her of being reckless, naive, and completely disregarding our relationship and future. She brought up past instances where I had been hesitant to spend money, framing it as me being overly frugal, even cheap, when in reality, I'm just fiscally responsible. I reminded her of every conversation we'd had about financial planning, about how important it was to us to be financially stable before starting a family. He promised he'd pay it back, she insisted, her voice cracking. He's going to sign a promissory note. It's legally binding. A promissory note from someone who is already bankrupt and has a track record of failed businesses is not worth the paper it's written on, Sarah. I countered, throwing my hands up in exasperation. Have you even considered what happens if he doesn't pay it back? That $50,000 is gone. Poof. And then what? Do we just cancel the wedding? Do we put off buying a house indefinitely? What about the fact that you unilaterally decided to commit our shared funds to this harebrained scheme? She eventually stormed off to our bedroom, slamming the door. I stayed in the living room, seething, my mind racing. I couldn't believe this was happening. My fiancée, the woman I was supposed to marry, was willing to risk our entire financial future, our wedding, our house, for an ex-boyfriend. And not just any ex, an ex who she'd broken up with precisely because of his financial irresponsibility. The next few days were tense. We barely spoke, and when we did, it was stilted and cold. I refused to budge on the money. I told her in no uncertain terms that I would not agree to transfer a single penny of our joint savings to David. She continued to plead, to try to make me feel guilty, bringing up how much David was struggling, how this was his last chance. One evening, I decided to do a little digging. I subtly asked one of our mutual friends, Mark, who still kept in touch with David, about his business. Mark looked uncomfortable. He admitted David's coffee business was a mess, deeper in debt than anyone knew, and that David had been trying to hit up everyone he knew for money, including old girlfriends. Mark even mentioned that David had specifically reached out to Sarah, knowing she was well off and engaged, implying she might be a good target. This confirmed my worst fears. David wasn't just a friend in need. He was actively exploiting Sarah's empathy. When I confronted Sarah with this information, she became even more defensive. Mark is just jealous of David's ambition. He's always been negative, she fumed. You're just trying to find reasons not to help him because you're selfish, Michael. This argument felt like a replay of countless others, but this time, the stakes were incredibly high. I felt like I was looking at a stranger. The woman I thought I knew, the one who was pragmatic and financially savvy, was gone, replaced by someone blinded by misplaced loyalty to an ex. The final straw came last night. I was working late on my laptop, and Sarah thought I was asleep. I heard her quietly get up and go to her computer in the other room. A few minutes later, I heard hushed whispers. My gut told me something was wrong. I quietly got up and crept to the doorway of her study. She was on a video call, and it was indeed David. Her voice was low and urgent. I tried, David, I really did, she was saying, her voice laced with desperation. Michael just won't budge. He's being completely unreasonable. He doesn't understand. He just cares about money. David's face, projected onto her screen, looked frustrated. So, that's it then? No help? After everything, Sarah? I thought you believed in me. I thought you cared. I do care, she whispered, almost in tears. More than you know. I don't know what else to do. He's completely stonewalling me. He even brought up your credit history and how many businesses you failed. It's like he enjoys seeing you suffer. My blood ran cold. She was actively painting me as the villain to her ex-boyfriend, twisting my reasonable objections into malice. And the implication that she cared more than you know for David, even while engaged to me, stung more than any accusation that I walked into the room, making my presence known. Sarah jumped, her face paling as she saw me. David's eyes widened on the screen. Oh, I care, Sarah, I said, my voice dangerously calm. I care very much. I care about our future, which you seem so willing to throw away for someone who clearly doesn't care about you beyond what he can get from you. And I care about the fact that you're bad-mouthing me and lying to your ex-boyfriend behind my back. Sarah stammered, trying to close her laptop, but it was too late. David quickly ended the call, leaving her staring at a blank screen. Michael, I can explain, she started, her voice trembling. Explain what, Sarah? I asked, walking closer, my eyes fixed on her. Explain why you're so willing to sacrifice our wedding, our house, our entire future, for a man who failed you before and is clearly manipulating you now. Explain why you would lie about me and paint me as some kind of monster to him. He's just a friend, she insisted, tears now streaming down her face. He's desperate. I was just trying to help him. You're making it sound like something it's not. Is he just a friend, Sarah? I asked, crossing my arms. Or is there more to it? Because frankly, your devotion to his financial well-being, coupled with your willingness to sabotage our relationship for him, suggests a deeper emotional investment than mere friendship. You've been secretive, evasive, and now you're actively undermining me. That's not how an engaged woman behaves. She burst into full-blown sobs, collapsing into her chair. You're being unfair. You're twisting everything. I love you, Michael. I want to marry you. I feel so bad for David. He's truly at rock bottom. And what about us being at rock bottom financially, Sarah, if you go through with this? I challenged. What about the fact that I'm standing here feeling completely betrayed by the person I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with? Is that not as important as David's failing coffee business? I told her I needed space. I packed a small bag and went to stay at a friend's apartment. I couldn't even look at her right now. My head is spinning now. I'm sitting here, trying to process everything. Was I too harsh? Should I have been more understanding of her desire to help a friend? Or is my gut feeling right that this is a massive red flag, a betrayal that goes deeper than just financial recklessness? The thought of marrying someone who would so readily prioritize an ex-boyfriend's desperate plea over our shared future, and then lie and manipulate to try and achieve her goal, is terrifying. A part of me wants to believe her, that it's just misplaced empathy and a naive belief in David's promises. But another, much stronger part, feels a profound sense of betrayal. It's not just the money, it's the secrecy, the manipulation, the willingness to throw me under the bus, and the underlying implication that her feelings for David still hold significant sway. What if this is just the tip of the iceberg? What if this friendship with David continues to be a source of conflict and financial risk in our marriage? I keep thinking about how she was so quick to offer our money, to suggest we postpone our wedding, all for him. It feels like she's already mentally checked out of our partnership, or at least, she's willing to sacrifice it for something else. That I've invested 5 years into this relationship, and I truly love Sarah. But I can't shake the feeling that she's shown me a side of herself that is fundamentally incompatible with the kind of trust and partnership I need in a marriage. The trust is shattered. How do you come back from something like this? How do you plan a future with someone who was so ready to dismantle it for an ex? I need some outside perspective. Am I overreacting? Or is this a deal breaker? And what do I even do next? I don't know if I can unsee what I've seen or unhear what I've heard. My heart is broken, and my future feels incredibly uncertain.